Hey everybody, welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. My name is John. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I really hate this voice that you're doing. I really hate it going on.
It's like an airline pilot.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, I'm flying people through hyperspace. No? All right.
Airline pilots are usually like a little more like, "Hey there, folks," blah blah blah. Like it's like more of like a.
But they're all South Park characters in
That's
your
what they
world?
sound like.
Hey everybody, blah 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 blah. Well, anyway, everybody. I'm gonna for the people watching, I'm purposely dragging this out as long as possible to keep his stupid face behind those cards. James Baney is back from Batuu, and look at him playing cards. He's got straight staves. I can tell by the look on his face. Welcome back, James. How you doing, buddy?
-2. Beginner's luck. I'm back.
A little behind the scenes fun right before this. I was like, James goes away and he plans bits.
Yeah.
God.
No.
Yeah. And, well, the funniest part is James has to do our sync up countdowns, and he was like all ready with his props and stuff. I'm like, James, just count us down, please.
No, I also wanted to show off. I hardly buy things. Everybody knows I'm not really that big of a collector, but one of the things that I picked up was a Sabacc game from Galaxy's Edge. Because we play a lot of board games and stuff when we have like family get-togethers and things, and I thought that Sabacc might be a good one that seems like an easy, just bust it out, do a couple rounds, you know, and everybody can kind of, once they know the rules, like it kind of becomes a fun and easy game to put together, like a card game, but more fun because it's like an official thing or something. So I thought Sabacc would be good, and that was one of the things that I picked up at Galaxy's Edge.
Well, welcome back. You'll be happy to know, as you probably already saw, our patrons agreed with you that Rancors are not cute.
I'm sorry, Did you say just our patrons?
Oh, I'm getting there. But overwhelmingly, our patrons were like 80 to 80-20.
They like to hurt me so much, you know?
So I was glad you weren't on that video.
I watched the poll chat, and then I saw the bigger one went up later. I just am baffled that you guys think that they're cute, and I felt very good to be justified by everybody being like, John, Lacey, I gotta sit you down for a second. No.
You know, it's funny you say that. Well, someone just tagged me in a tweet about Rancors, actually. Matt O'Donnell, thank you so much for tagging me, said, Lacey, are you seeing this? And it was from a Star Wars Fact, Twitter account that they put out. And they said, although Rancors may be seen as violent and fearsome predators, they're naturally benign and cause very little trouble in their native habitat. It is only when provoked and underfed over a long period of time that Rancors become what we see them to be.
Okay. Everything you just said has nothing to do with their looks.
But benign usually makes them cuter because their temperament.
Yeah, cute can be temperament and how you behave.
So I noticed that in the poll chat as you guys went through, a lot of the reasons, and you're gonna argue them, but a lot of the reasons that I thought you guys were giving were reasons why they're sweethearts or something like that, or
I like the undercut.
Don't you feel sorry for him or something along those lines? And I was like, but none of that has anything to do with like a person who's I don't know, like been in an accident, or they're very clearly not beautiful or whatever, but they're still nice people. They still are good people. You know what I mean? It was kind of one of those things where it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with the look. So I'm just basing it on this creature who is literally meant to be scary. It's like, how awful of a creature can we make? Though,
because it's got that undercut by
it's like an English bulldog.
It literally looks like a bulldog, a brown bulldog with no ears.
Yeah, and bulldogs are traditionally not cute, but because of their breathing and their little underbites and their teeth come up and their eyes are a little googly and they're chubby, like it's like.
I mean, you guys can keep saying this, but the polls have spoken.
All right, well, listen, I'll get to it now. We don't often take our polls that we post on Patreon and go public with them, but this one we're like, let's see
a hot topic.
If our patrons are more harsh towards Rancors than the public. And we did post it to our Twitter account at RBATSWNN. By the way, 600 followers away from 10K for TRB. Pretty cool.
Unreal.
If we get there before the end of the year, I will do something. I don't know what.
We'll also do a giveaway. That's the basic underline of that. Plus, John will do something. John's still supposed to tap dance in heels at some point. That never happened. The yub nub. That's years in the making.
I needed a porg costume for that one, but I will do something. But anyway, the public said 55% no, 45% yes. So that was closer. But anyway, that was a fun one. It's weird. It's like one of those things that just took on more interest than we ever had expected. So a lot of that's because of our patrons they just have a good time with that stuff. So, and it carried over, just like the Taco Bell eating challenge.
Still offended. I forgive you all for being wrong, but I hope you have a good day.
Still offended. I mean, I wouldn't be offended.
Meanwhile, John's on the poll chat being like, I hope you all get eaten. Mine's just, hey, you've bothered me by your answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes you gotta over dramatize for the sake of theater. All right. So, Lacey, by the way, how are you doing? I went right to James because it's his big return. I was away for a week on vacation.
I know, but he had such a good time. It's so wholesome and wonderful. And like when you asked him how it went, he said magical, and you just kind of go, "Oh, that's cute." Disney.
And I have a Star Wars experience that I'd like to share.
Oh yeah, you said you had a
happened.
story. So anyway, long story short, I'm great. We're in the end game now, everybody. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Good luck.
Anyway, go James, tell your story.
Little Boba Shay will be here soon.
Yeah.
Can we end this bit of just saying random names for my first child? Let's end it with that. Go ahead, James.
So
Adache.
Donkashay.
I'm looking at things behind her, just like.
So no, we went, and this time in particular was our second time going. So the first time we went, we did like everything right, and this time going, we had a lot to do elsewise with other parks and things. So we kind of were a little bit more relaxed on Galaxy's Edge this time, especially since I know I was going to be going back soon. So we didn't do everything, but what I did get to do, I get to ride Smuggler's Run. Got to do the cockpit, the pilot. I mean, which I just kind of happened into, which was really cool. And I got to do the Lightspeed thing. So last time I was single rider, I did like an engineer or something. It was an experience.
Oh, you got to punch it?
Yeah, this time I got to punch it. So it was pretty cool.
Nice.
And then we got to ride Rise of the Resistance, and we were able to do it twice actually.
No spoilers.
So, no spoilers on this. But I do, and that's the thing is like, so this story involves something with Rise of Resistance, but I'm going to avoid. Like, anybody who's ridden the ride will know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to make it so bland you have no idea. So there's a point in the ride where you go into a room, right? And you're just kind of in the room and you're waiting for the next event to happen. And we waited there in the room for, I don't know, maybe like 30 seconds. Like, I'm trying to be realistic. Like, it felt like forever, but realistically, probably like 30 seconds.
I heard it keeps breaking down, actually.
In context now, maybe there was a reason, but we're sitting there, and my thought is, I know nothing about this ride. I've stayed away from all the spoilers, everything. I know nothing about it. This whole thing is an experience. So I'm thinking this room is a little bit maybe like an escape room. Like maybe that's what's supposed to happen. And in retrospect, I do remember somebody on the outside saying something like, "Don't lean on my walls," but I thought he was just playing character, like, "Don't get my walls dirty or you'll be cleaning them," or something. But what we started looking around the room, and I saw a button, and I walked up to the button, and there's a little case on it, and it looked very Star Warsy. It didn't look like real, whatever.
Is that the fire alarm?
It wasn't the fire alarm. It said, push to open. And I thought, we're part of the resistance, trying to get out of here. that we're locked in this room. Nothing's going on. Flip the thing open. And I said, I had Bennett push the button. And we were up there for a little bit. So if anybody was like, don't push that, but nobody said anything. They push the button, the doors open up, and then they come in and they're still in character. And they're like, does anybody, are you trying to get out? Or something like that. And it was this whole thing. It messed up the whole ride. So
James,
they pulled us out of the room. They got us back in line. They tried to call somebody.
You?
No. I think everybody there was like cool with it because I was like probably their first time riding it too.
You weren't wearing one of our shirts, were you?
No. So then they call a technician.
I love that James is this person though.
Yeah,
by the way, James is the guy that.
Of course,
and
he is.
And they're getting in our face like, who pushed the button, blah 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 blah, and like nobody's wanting to like answer it.
Poor
because
Bennett, you made Bennett do it too. Oh,
no, they straight
God.
up they got in Bennett's face too, and they were like quizzing him, and he just like got terrified and like cuddled into my legs and stuff. But they called over a technician. They couldn't get it working, and they were gonna put us back in the same room, but they had to move us to a different room. We go back in the room, the same thing happens right in the room, but then immediately, like we were moved. The story continued. So everybody in the room was like, why were we in the other one for like 30, like nothing was going on. So I almost felt justified. Everybody in the room was like, oh, exactly. Like what, we didn't know what was going on before. So they were with me. They were cool. Everybody was cool. And again, the second time we wrote it, everything happened fluently. So it must have been like a bug. And we were just literally sitting, waiting in the room. And my mind just started being like, well, what's the point of this? Why are we here? Let's get out. Push to open, not emergency exit, push to open.
Dude.
I'm like, they want to make it very clear this is how you escape.
The funniest thing though is that come May, when we all go together, we're gonna walk into that room and James gonna be like, "This is the button, don't press it."
Yeah, don't press that button. I've pressed that button. Don't press that button. It helps nobody.
I want to know if any of our listeners have seen this button, have thought about hitting this button, or if James is the first to ever push the button.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say I'm the only person who, not in life, but for Resistance broadcast listeners and everything, I can't imagine somebody else has also pushed that button.
Can't wait for someone to be like, you actually pressed it? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. No, it didn't seem. It seemed very Star Warsy. It seemed very experienced. Push to open. All right, push to open.
Well, James, you're always pushing our buttons, so why not one more?
All right.
All right. So we have a James. I don't know if you know this. We have a segment on the show called Resistance
That's
Report.
Right. I forgot.
Do you remember? Did you remember the key to get into the file cabinet to get the notes and all that? To talk about the news?
It's actually a button.
Yeah,
it's a button.
I think I have the notes pulled up here, and I haven't talked about any of these stories. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kamal Nanjiani talks about. That's the news this week, right? Star Wars Vision director confirms Ninth Jedi as a pilot. Is that
right?
I'd like to press a button to get out of this right now.
All right, we doing Resistance Report? Here we
Let's go.
It's the Resistance.
All right, guys, as we were just discussing, we got a couple of stories that are actually happening this week, not last week's news. And the first one is that...
Hey, everybody, sorry to interrupt TRB here. News sometimes comes out after we record the podcast, and we would be so embarrassed had we put out this episode with our main story being that Sasha Banks said she's not in Mandalorian Season 3 when this news came out. So here we are, back in the base to record this segment within a segment. This is like Inception. But anyway.
Right and early.
Yeah, you get the idea. Here we are on this Monday episode interrupting ourselves. So the news obviously being that Hayden Christensen is going to be in the Ahsoka series, right, James? So
yes.
I don't. You want to do your spiel here, or do we just want to kind of get into it now that everybody knows what the news is, or what?
I mean, that is the news. Hollywood Reporter broke it on Friday, like night, basically. Kind of wild story.
Worst timing ever.
I happened to be like in Dune, phone off,
yes,
kind of thing.
Yes, you were.
It was nuts. But I came out and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh man, like our Monday episode, and if you know how we record, our Thursday episode as well is not going to discuss this at all. So we got to do something. But long story short, we don't know exactly how he's going to show up. That's where the speculation, I imagine we'll have to have a conversation about that in a second. But the only two things that pop up in my head immediately is he's obviously going to be either a Force ghost or they're going to do some type of flashback here, because news alert, if you're a Star Wars fan, this is what, like 6 or 7 years? We don't know exactly when Ahsoka takes place, but it's going to take place post-Mandalorian. So it's got to be roughly 6 or 7 years after this guy died. So something's up. John, I'm going to go ahead and jump right back at you on this one. What are your thoughts on Ahsoka now having Hayden Christensen as a cast member?
So a month ago, someone had mentioned this to me, but I was like, I don't know. That just sounds like one of those things that people are like guessing because it makes sense. Because Hayden seems all in, right? He's doing all the conventions now. He's like the poster boy for Star Wars, going to live events. He's at the top of the Empire State Building. He's the guy. He's back.
He seemingly doesn't change his clothes and only wears his Kenobi gear. Because every picture I see, he's wearing the Kenobi sweatshirt and hat, which I get it. It's like his uniform now, but he's pumped.
Is definitely the guy who loves the free swag, and he's going to be there at Christmas giving his nephews and nieces the mugs and the hats and stuff. They're going to be like, oh my God. But he seems excited to be back.
He forgot all the stuff he gets.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, wait a minute, you guys are going to give me free sweatshirts if I sign up for this? And they're like, Hayden, it's going to be a lot of money too. And he's like, yeah, but the shirts, like,
right, exactly. Yeah. So Lucasfilm is very sensitive to how people's public perception is of things, and they have their finger on the pulse. They see that, everyone loves Hayden. He's had quite the redemption arc. People are realizing that, maybe the prequels weren't on him. We've seen him in other movies. I've seen him in other movies that I love. And so they're like, yeah, let's bring him back for Kenobi, but let's, that we have to wiggle around because it's Vader. Now we can bring him back at this, and he's fully Anakin. So I don't think we're even limited to just the Ahsoka series. I think we're going to see him pop up elsewhere too, where it makes sense. But the funniest thing I find is most people I'm seeing online are, oh, that means they're doing flashbacks, Clone Wars flashbacks. I'm like, Force Ghost. I'm like, that's the one. That's where my brain goes. That's the big moment. I think the closure that people need to get, and Ahsoka needs to get with Anakin, has been laying out there for so long, because to her it was always Vader and she never got to see him redeemed. And we had speculated she's going to meet Luke and Luke's going to say that he came back and that sort of thing. But now that there's a really good chance she's going to see Force Ghost Anakin, which also helps the idea since they're both Force Ghosts in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if there's a Force Ghost like living room somewhere in Force Ghostia, but it makes more sense for that.
Actually.
Right, that's it. I forgot. But that's going to be a really heavy scene, and I think it's going to be a big deal. So I think that's where my focus is for that, and just the fact that he can come back in that way, and maybe even Luke gets involved. Like, there's going to be some tears dropping, and that Ahsoka series is going to be all killer, no filler. Like, you got to do the Ezra stuff, the Thrawn stuff. Luke may be there. You may get the Grogu situation. Now Anakin. It's a limited series, so we're not talking about multiple seasons. This is going to be a loaded show, which is very exciting. But I love the fact that he's back. This guy deserves it. He's a better actor than people gave him credit for. He dealt with a lot of crap coming out of the prequels. Was the good soldier. Didn't do, where maybe some actors, I'm not going to name names, point fingers at this or that. He just, he's a good dude. You can tell that. I haven't met him personally, but you can tell about fans how they interact with him at conventions and stuff, how kind and gracious he is, soft-spoken. He just seems like a really good guy, so I'm really rooting for him, and I'm expecting good things out of him in Kenobi and now this. So those are my initial reactions. But like I said, I'm leaning more towards one big Force Ghost scene where Ahsoka's trying to find Ezra and things aren't working out towards the middle of the season, and he kind of shows up the way Yoda showed up to Luke in The Last Jedi, saying like, I'm here to lift you up, I'm here for you, and it's going to be like this big emotional moment. That's my guess.
Yeah, him coming back definitely changes my opinion on watching Little Italy for the first time. Now I'm kind of like, what's the most recent thing he's done? Maybe I'll go check that out. Lacey, what are your initial thoughts to this crazy news?
Oh, I'm so sad, James. You took my joke. My joke was that when he's coming back for Ahsoka, I was so sad that it's not Little Italy 2, but...
Hey, no, it's still there.
Fair,
it's on
Lacey,
the table.
Lacey, you've crushed that joke in past episodes, though, so that's fair.
No, not really. But it's fine. I think that, this is surprising to me. I don't think that this was something that I thought would come out and be like out in the open prior to the series. I feel like, we know that Lucasfilm is definitely very secretive. They like to keep things close to themselves. So the fact that this is kind of out there from multiple sources with The Hollywood Reporter is kind of very shocking to me that this got out. But it's not surprising because in the Mandalorian episode, where we meet Ahsoka with the Mandalorian, there is that very emotional scene where she talks about how she's seen the best of us go bad. She's seen the best people turn to the dark side. And it was one of the best lines in the episode. And honestly, it made me leave that episode liking Ahsoka more than I did prior to that, because it just, the weight of the situation was there. And she had this kind of grudge against the Jedi, which, we know all her history and everything anyway, but just to kind of see it translate in live action was very moving, especially because we have these two characters that have interacted so much in the Clone Wars and whatnot, that it's kind of hard to go all the way to the end of the Skywalker saga and never have them meet on screen at some point or interact or anything, or get, like you said, John, that closure that they needed.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that it is a Force ghost and isn't a bunch of flashbacks. And again, everything you said, John, is correct, that I agree with that. It just points that way, but also in the fact that Dave Filoni wrote that scene of her still having this feeling of like, I've seen them go bad, meaning she hasn't had that closure yet. She hasn't talked to Anakin yet. She doesn't know that he turned back for his kids at the end of Return of the Jedi. So it kind of like opened the door there for him to come back. As on the side of Hayden, I'm so happy for him. I couldn't be more happy. He looks like he's having the time of his life. Like, he's having the best time at conventions. After everything he went through, he's meeting all these fans that grew up with the prequels. We talked about it a little bit with that kind of sequel trilogy, Will It Age Well, recently. And I couldn't be happier for him. And I made a joke about the merch, but like, it must be because he's so proud of being Anakin again. And he's so proud of being a part of Kenobi. So I can only imagine that he's going to feel the same way about the Ahsoka series. I did want to bring up, there was something circulating of a screenshot of a quote from Rosario Dawson kind of confirming it. So the question is it real? Is it not real? Did she delete it? It was something along the lines of like, they know, see you soon, Snips. You know,
hey Sky Guy, they know.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just funny because Rosario has been, from the very beginning, so pumped to be Ahsoka. Like, even before they announced it, just the idea of her getting this role has been so important to her. So I kind of believe that she did say that and was like, oops, my bad, because she saw it on the Hollywood Reporter. She just assumed it was legit, knowing that the trades also run stuff that's not an official statement yet.
She
but yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes.
The Mena Masad and Lars Mikkelsen stuff too. Like she's got a quick trigger, that one.
She's just very excited.
I don't know if she has understood the big franchise secret world yet. I mean, she's been in Marvel properties, but it was Daredevil, and they were probably loose on that stuff. They're like, like create buzz
Especially Marvel
wherever
TV,
you can.
yeah.
Or Kevin Smith, he's like, here's my whole movie. It'll be out next year.
Yeah.
So I just think she's probably not used to. She's saying, "Oh, we can't say that. We can't say that," because off the top of my head, I can't think of something that she like huge she's been in, like as far as they're like in the new world where they're trying to keep everything secret. Yeah.
With the Rogue One.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
at the panel. The funny thing is I was there for that and I don't remember that happening, but I know Matt Martin brings it up all the time. Every time he sees a picture of the panel, he's like, "Oh God, that moment where we all were like, no."
Yeah.
So, James, you you know, you're the biggest Clone Wars fan out of the three of us. Are you hoping for flashbacks in this type of situation, or are you like, we saw all that? Like,
well, so okay,
Hold on really quick
Go
though,
ahead.
James, when you were in the movie, John and I were talking on Discord about this, and I was just like, poor James, the moment he goes into a movie, this is the news that breaks.
The longest
and he's
movie
not here
ever.
to react to it. Yeah.
No, it's great. That just means that the universe is telling me I have to go see movies and totally shut off my phone more often.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, this was
James
Well,
is going to go see Little Italy 2, and they're going to announce
Exactly.
Solo 2.
to your point, Lacey, one of the things that you mentioned, we haven't talked about this in a while because, you know, Ahsoka being in live action was a hot moment for a second, and then everybody kind of wore it out, and it's not something we talk
There's
about
just
very
so
often,
much
but-
going on. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, she talks about those moments, and all of a sudden, no matter how much we know the Clone Wars was real canon, right? Having someone in live action refer to those moments very specifically makes them real. All of a sudden in your memory, those animations become the characters. You see Hayden Christensen in those moments with Rosario Dawson. Instead of
and Filoni's
just
there
the
like, you think this is
computer
a joke?
animated thing. Yeah.
This has been
Yeah,
real
exactly.
the whole time.
No, so it's crazy in that sense. You know, you guys have heard my arguments on Force Ghosts before. I like them. They're there, but it always makes me think, if they can show up, then why don't they show up more often? And this may be an attempt to kind of explain that. This is just all my initial thoughts too. Like the whole thing that I've created, I said this is going to happen. I think in the Mandalorian, you know, Luke and Grogu are going to be together. They're going to bring Ahsoka back. You're going to get that moment between Luke and Ahsoka. I think you're right that this could be that moment too. Luke could be the person that is needed for Anakin to show up to Ahsoka. I know he could do it, but I think Ahsoka doesn't recognize that Force Ghosts are a thing. And Luke could be the thing that says, if you need the closure, then you can get it. You know what I mean? And then he shows up because he's already shown up to Luke. He showed up to Luke in Return of the Jedi kind of thing.
Yeah,
So how do you explain that Anakin hasn't shown up in 6 years to Ahsoka?
To Kylo Ren either.
Exactly. She's like having a problem. She can't get over it. Maybe he's the key that could say like, Father, come back, solve this problem for her kind of thing. But I don't know, you know, all that stuff gets really tricky. Yeah. It then makes me think if they don't go down that route, then they could do the flashback stuff. And I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, it's cool, but you know, you could de-age Hayden Christensen. That wouldn't be a problem. But at this point, you're probably looking at like, it'd be like a 19-year-old Ahsoka.
You'd need another
You're
actress.
recasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, something's going on there. So that almost doesn't seem likely to me. Does this
Actually,
also...
X-Men's like, I could play 19.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, maybe that
she
was
does play a college girl in that Amanda Bynes movie.
Maybe that was the big secret where she's like, I'm going to welcome Rosario Dawson for now.
Yeah, right.
You know, right. But she, but where we're going, the Force Ghost thing, like, does Anakin showing up to Ahsoka for the closure, for the memorabilia, all that stuff, or not memorabilia, but nostalgia, does that feel too
actually,
Kenobi?
they'll probably make memorabilia too.
Yeah, true. Does that feel too Kenobi Qui-Gon? Like, are we going to watch that and then like a year later be like, we just saw this in Kenobi with Qui-Gon showing up to Obi-Wan?
That's true.
As the Force Ghost cameo from the movies 20 years ago, the prequels.
Well,
I don't.
that is a good point.
It's some
I
of
don't
this
think
stuff,
the closure is the same though, because the
I
closure with
agree.
Ahsoka is like very, like raw, like
Yeah.
very unsolved.
The Qui-Gon is more of the teaching moment,
Yeah.
because of the end of Revenge of the Sith, when he's like, he'll teach you how to do this.
Mhm.
And the Ahsoka one, I don't know that it's going to be. I don't think the purpose of Anakin showing up is going to be for the closure, but she's still going to get it, and they're both going to get it.
Sure.
I, for some reason, think it's going to be one of those, middle second act of the series, right in the middle of it. She's struggling. She's been struggling dealing with the identity of being a Jedi. Maybe things aren't going well in her quest to find Ezra or something. She's like just completely worn out and burnt out. And Anakin shows up to like lift her back up or something like that, to make her believe again in the Jedi, or something like that. Like because the episode was called The Jedi in season 2. She was still it was very ambiguous whether or not she was fully back in, and she still seemed to have questions about it and doubts and that sort of thing. I think it's going to be one of those, he's going to fully bring her back, and that's going to be the heavy moment. And they don't do these, they don't seem to do these things by, oh, now this is a good idea. Like, I think when even though it wasn't written yet, because Favreau wrote season 3, I believe, started writing it in the early part of 2020. Season 2 came out at the end of 2020. I think it was planned, where they knew they were bringing Ahsoka in, and for the Ahsoka series, as they pitched it, they probably had Hayden confirmed. Like, they don't. I think the way, especially Filoni does the storytelling, and the way Favreau is as just a boss of production and creation, this wasn't one of those things like, oh, now we can like wedge him in now because he's doing this thing. I think this was something that was definitely in the works, and that was part of, like you were saying, Lacey, about the lines, and she was talking about, I've seen the best of us fall. That's going to make that moment and the redemption that much sweeter. Now, the flashbacks, I think that would be cool too, but like you said, James, you got to do the new actress. And we've seen 7 years of the Clone Wars. Like, I want to see them now. I want to see Anakin now interact with this Ahsoka, because we need to see that closure and stuff like that. And, we may get the flashbacks in the Kenobi series with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and that's fine. I don't think Ahsoka's going to be involved there, because people who know Obi-Wan's story in the prequels may not know Ahsoka, and might be hard to explain for them. But this one, I want to keep it here in the present. I'd be cool with whatever, of course, but I want to see them now more. I think that's more interesting to me than
we're in a
let's
wild
see a
time.
Clone Wars flashback of something of 7 seasons we saw, like when they were cool with each other. Like, we saw that, we have that. Give
All
me
of a
them
sudden,
now.
It fefeels like somebody invented some piece of technology that just makes anything possible or something, and then Star Wars is like, oh, well we'll just do that then.
Yeah,
like we're talking about, you'd have to recast an actress or something, but it's in a world where we're discussing live action Clone Wars episodes.
Look,
and
they
Anakin and Luke
could
and
do-
Ahsoka all together in live action. It's like nuts.
Look at Captain America. They could do Rosario Dawson. Like, look what they did with him, making him skinny and short and stuff.
yeah.
Like, they can definitely
But
do
it
it if they
never
want to put
looks
the money
right.
in.
I want to be clear that it never looks right. Like, the Irishman stuff looked terrible. I'm sorry. It looked so bad. It didn't look right.
I think sometimes you get so old, and I hate saying that because it sounds mean, that it's hard to de-age you. And that's
It just looks plasticky. Like, you can tell, and we talked about this with Hal Hickel, like, you're human, you can tell other human. Like,
Yeah.
Smoothing.
It doesn't look right.
We're in a weird period. I mean, we're like, you look at visual effects. I mean, we've had the conversation with Hal Hickel and stuff. It depends, like, where we are in the timeline. And right now, what we're discussing, like, you can tell it looks terrible, is the stuff that's like,
I wouldn't say terrible,
No, I know,
but the
I know.
Irishman did.
But it's
Irishman
like
definitely did.
incredibly better than it was like 10 or
Sure.
15 years ago, and give it another decade and it won't look terrible, and we'll be like, dude,
Right,
I can't
right.
tell,
Right.
It's just
yeah.
a little bit longer, and it's like, what movie is going to be the movie where people watch it and we're like, how is that possible? And they're like,
So
de-aging, we just did it better.
Here's our
I
next...
just don't think we need the flashbacks. The flashbacks aren't needed.
That's
that story's
exactly
been
right.
told.
Yeah.
So I don't, like, I get, because I saw a lot of reactions online from people that are very diehard Clone Wars fans and animation fans, and I get it. and I understand that, and you want that kind of validation that you're seeing those moments that you loved so much in the series replicated in live action, but it's just like, why do you want to see that again? You know what I mean? I would rather see what's happening, like you said, John, now than just see the same scenes over and over and over again.
Do you guys think that Hayden Christensen signed for multiple appearances in multiple shows when he did? Or do you think that it was that he signed on to Kenobi, he did the thing, he went through the experience, and now that the show has wrapped his filming, he officially went forward with all the other ones that were initially proposed to him and signed on to those? That's why the report is breaking now.
No, multiple, because I mean,
why do you think that the story wasn't before?
First of all, like John said, I think Favreau and Filoni, definitely Filoni in storytelling, are planners. They don't just leave things up to chance. They plan way in advance. That's why you hear things like, oh, I wrote this part for Giancarlo Esposito, like, early on. Like, they plan way in advance. And we know that from The Mandalorian and from Dave Filoni, where he's like, oh, I thought of this series 7 years ago. Yeah. Like, that's just how he is. On the production side, definitely multiple, because that's just how they run things now. And that's due to multiple instances, but probably the most notable is Robert Downey Jr., where they signed him on for Iron Man early on, and then they didn't re-up him early enough, so then they owed him a lot of money. So now they sign people on. Yeah, so now they sign people on for 3-4 projects at a time. I mean, look at Felicity Jones. She signed on for 3 movies.
Alden Ehrenreich, 3 movies, Han Solo.
Correct.
I hear everything,
but
you
I'm
guys
saying
are
her
saying,
character dies. That's a little different,
convinced.
But yeah.
Because I know
James,
the
really?
How about this? How about this? You said he came back, did Kenobi, did the thing. They just finished filming that.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying like,
the timing of this news in the fact that they just wrapped Kenobi makes me think that it was on the table, and he says, let me do Kenobi, let me see what the experience is like. I'll sign
Ahsoka's
now for that
written,
show.
Man. That show's already written.
I'm just saying. I mean, they like, not that it's a good example, but like they had 2 scripts for Independence Day 2, one with Will Smith and one without. You know,
it was asked, and we gave our answers.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying. I asked the proposal. This is my answer. I think my gut is telling me that it was a big step for him, and he said, "Let me do the one show. If I don't like the being back in that world again, then I will. You know, that'll be my one and done. I came back for Kenobi. I did the thing. I played.
He hasn't
Darth
been
Vader.
doing anything.
But if I liked the experience and if I was okay with it, then when we wrap, I'll make the decision on whether I want to do.
Hey, Hayden, do you like making a ton of money at conventions?
And being popular and being in the public eye?
Yeah, but the ball is in his court, is it not? They need him, and they're willing to pay whatever. So ultimately, he has the decision.
He's all in, man. He was coming back to those conventions before Kenobi.
Then
why
didn't the thing break that Hayden Christensen has signed a multi-series deal for Disney Plus? Why wasn't that the story?
I'm just going to disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just curious. I'm just throwing it out there, right?
I just think that all actors, when they get into something like this, especially franchise related, it's always multiple things. They leave the door open, at least starting at 3. It's always 3. Cassian too.
Agree,
Cassian signed on for 3 appearances.
Felicity Jones.
Because the series wasn't announced yet.
They
announced him with Obi-Wan.
All right, so that's another part of this. Like, this is a Hollywood trade. Lucasfilm hasn't confirmed this. So this is a Hollywood trade saying
that's what I'm saying. It's more likely that they would have just told the story as it is. They weren't waiting.
It could have been someone. It could have been someone from Lucasfilm, and they have some sort of agreements with the trades. Like, report us in good light, and we'll give you scoops. Hollywood Reporter, it's your turn. Here's this one. Or his agent said, hey, guess what? Our boy's white hot right now. Boom, he's doing this too. And they're like, okay, well, let's confirm that with my friend at Lucasfilm. And they're like, yep, but I'm not on record. Okay. I have 2 sources. We're going with it. And they put it out, and there you go.
You think it's only 2 when they say multiple?
That's all you need to say the word multiple. I mean, I'm sure.
I feel like multiple is like 3 or more.
Multiple is just more than 1. So
does this Hollywood Reporter story say multiple now too?
Yeah,
it says multiple sources. Yeah.
Well, you usually get your one source, and then
we're talking about sources.
And then you verify with other sources.
Multiple shows.
But what I find funny about this is, and I don't want to make this too big of a thing, but if we had put that out, people would have like torn us apart. But if a big trade does it, people are like, oh my god, this is amazing. So I just there's a double standard when a fan blog puts it out and people are like, you guys are spoiling it and ruining stuff, whatever. Versus fan website puts it out. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I still like the word blog, but
I mean, and it goes down further too. Like if somebody tweeted this, then it would also not get the respect either.
Right.
You know?
No, sure.
Right.
It'd be like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
How do you know?
But anyway, I mean, it's all good news. I'm really excited that he's coming back. I don't think I have much more to add. I think we covered like almost every angle possible on this thing. And as more light gets shed on it, we'll obviously get more into it. Do you guys have anything else before we throw it back to us?
Yeah. Before we go back and talk about all the other wild news this week.
So James, why don't you throw it back to you?
No, Lacey's good at this. Lacey? No, I guess it's thrown back to me. James, back to you.
Disney Plus is going to feature a show called Under the Helmet, The Legacy of Boba Fett. And that is going to be debuting on November 12th. And we know this because they put out an advertisement as they do. Hey, this is all the stuff that's coming up. And we got a couple of those random quick glimpses. Maybe you guys noticed something I didn't, but as far as just glancing at it, it seemed like seeing Boba Fett at the parks and stuff, like the character just like walking around as part of Star Tours and other things like that. But I'm interested. We're all interested to see what this is. And we got our first kind of sneak peek at what it could be. But it is coming on Disney Plus Day. So get excited for that. And I think we'll probably speculate a little bit if that means we're getting a trailer that day too. But I'm going to hand it off to John first. What do you think about Under the Helmet, The Legacy of Boba Fett?
So when I first heard that they were doing a feature on Boba Fett on Disney Plus Day, my brain immediately said they're going to do something to catch people up on this character in a very quick way because he is a fringe character up until this point, minor character. Popular with diehard fans, but when it comes to casual fans, they're like, oh, that's the guy with the helmet thing, right? And like even when The Mandalorian came out, they're like, oh, is that Boba Fett? You know, so they want to reel in the general audiences to understand who this guy is so that they're vested and get it. Because The Mandalorian's one thing where it's like, here's this new show, new character, everyone's starting on page one. Kind of like with the Visions thing. It's not canon. You guys write what you want. You don't have to worry about the backstories. You're all good. Boba Fett has history. 40 years of history, even though he's a small character. They want to bring people up to speed, and this is like the Cliff Notes way. I think that's exactly what this is going to be. And now hearing the title of it, The Legacy of Boba Fett, Under the Helmet, I think this is going to be a retrospective on the history of the character, maybe some stuff on who played him, but also giving people a bit of a rundown on where he came from, who he is, how he got to be where he is now, and kind of push us right up until the edge and say, like, we recently saw him return in The Mandalorian, and now, bang, here it is. And then they're going to go into the trailer after, and that'll go online. So I think this is really one of those quick things that may not have too much new stuff in it, just allowing everyone to understand who Boba Fett is so that people aren't confused. And they're also like, all right, now that I know, I'm going to check this thing out and watch this show. So I think that's the purpose of it. I think it's smart. Probably wasn't all that hard to put together, I imagine. So just it all makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I think that title sort of cements that, letting us know what this thing is going to be. So I'm excited to check it out. I don't expect it to be anything long. Sometimes I see these things like, here's a extra feature on this Star Wars thing, and you go to it and it's like, I'm like, all right, I can't wait to learn about the Falcon, and it's like 90 seconds. I'm like, oh yeah, man. So I think it'll probably be on 10 minutes or something like that, and give us just that the total package of, you want to learn about
Boba Fett? Only 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be short. And I think it's gonna be like when Neo like woke up and he's like, I know Kung Fu. It's gonna be like, you're gonna know Boba Fett now after watching this thing. So I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be a full hour thing, but for with these types of things, I'm guessing, but I'm thinking it's gonna be on the shorter end. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm thinking sub 30, but I'm leaning more towards 20, like a little over 20.
Okay.
21, 22,
I was gonna say
like
20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah,
those are the
it could be.
gallery episodes.
Yeah.
So then, Lacey, what are your thoughts on what it could be and what it means that we're getting it?
Yeah, I agree with John that I think it's something to educate people that aren't diehard fans who Boba Fett is so that they can be prepared to get into the series. I think that was the main point of this, is a promotion thing going into the book of Boba Fett, because right now people know The Mandalorian, but I feel like overall, not just Star Wars fans, but fans that, you know, maybe casual Star Wars fans or fans that aren't big Star Wars fans have been introduced to The Mandalorian at the same time as diehard fans. So we're kind of all at the same level with the knowledge of The Mandalorian. Whereas obviously with Boba Fett, it's coming from a different angle. Like, people have liked this guy forever. So I think, like John said, it's definitely going to be something that educates people and lets them know who the character is, where it came from, why people like him so much, where he came, like where he's going, where he's been. I think they're going to show a lot of behind the scenes, probably from The Mandalorian, because that's already happened. So it's not like they're giving anything away. But I think there's definitely going to be a portion of this special, maybe a minute or two, that shows what's to come. And what people can expect in the new series, which then, like John said, would lead into a trailer of some sort, whether it be in the credits or they'll play it at the end and then they'll post it online. I think that this kind of cements that we're getting a trailer on November 12th.
So do you think this thing, Lacey, is gonna have like one of those side interview things with like Robert Rodriguez talking about like where they're going or something like that?
I think they're going to interview everybody that's involved in not just the Book of Boba Fett, but The Mandalorian, and then also some people at Lucasfilm, and just the impact of Boba Fett, because you can't think of The Mandalorian without Boba Fett, only because Jon Favreau originally wanted to do a show with Boba Fett. So you have to think that he's talked about that before. So they're pulling clips from those moments in those interviews where
I still think Favreau and Filoni are going to be in this.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Talking
about
absolutely.
It. Yeah. And they'll probably do maybe a brief tribute, even though a lot of people have played Boba Fett, even in the original trilogy. They'll probably do a brief tribute to like Jeremy Bulloch, since he passed away last year.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, in the teaser, they do use the quote of, "This is something we've never seen in Star Wars," so I'm interested to see what that reference is.
Yeah, to me, it seems like you guys are leaning towards like this is to get fans caught up on the character Boba Fett, and to me, I think that's true, but I think it's
caught up in honor.
The vibe that I get from this is like, the history of the character, like why he was created, like who's played him, how he was prototype,
the impact
character,
of his character,
how he showed up in the special. Like, I don't think it's so much about like, I think people are obviously going to mention like how, it's cool when I watched Empire Strikes Back, or when I saw him in this cartoon and I was excited to get the toy. I think people are going to mention that stuff, but I think more that it has less to do with the character and more to do with like the creation of the character and the behind the scenes aspect of it, especially since it's called The Legacy of Boba Fett. Like, I don't know that Boba Fett has legacy necessarily in the lore. I think the legacy of Boba Fett has real meaning in real life with fans.
I think, but I think, part of the legacy outside of just like who he is within Star Wars and the education side, I think the legacy part, like you're saying, is definitely with fans, because he had such a big impact with no part.
That's what I'm saying, is I think this is going to be more real life, the legacy of Boba Fett and what Boba Fett means to fans and his creation in real life and his outfit and stuff like that, more than it has to do with the character of Boba Fett. Like, well, he was eaten by the Sarlacc, and then he was working for Jabba. Like I know that's out of order. I think it's
a combination of the two. I think there has to be an explanation of who he is for people that don't know. But I think, totally, it's about where it's going and why he's coming back, because fans love him so much.
Yeah, I'm getting this like VH1 vibe, or like what's the
behind the music?
Kind of like anything where they are. Actually, Disney's been doing a lot of this. Or what are those ones that Netflix does with the movies, where they're just like interviewing celebrity after
movies
celebrity?
That made us.
What does this mean to you? What did this movie mean to you? I think they're just going to interview a lot of celebrities and just be like, what what does Boba Fett mean to you? And they're gonna say, yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting from it. It's very the lore, the what makes Boba Fett cool in real life to people, I think is more what I'm getting from this. Again, I could be way wrong on this, but I think one of the things that makes me think that
we're all saying that. I love that.
One of the things that makes me think that is that all the footage was from parks and live things. I don't think anything actually from...
Really? I saw all the footage was from the movies.
I don't think I...
misunderstanding the footage? The footage was like on set and stuff. Like him in the cockpit of the Slave One. It was him on set with a clapper.
On set with a clapper, yes. But not like... That's what I'm saying. It's more real life and not the in-story character. Like they're not going to show you.
I see what you're saying. Like not actual footage from the films. You're talking like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, real life stuff, including, like when like 501st or something, like charity events, and when they show like Celebration and there's like, 500 Boba Fett's on a staircase or something. That's the kind of direction I think they're leaning with this, more so than like the character and what he's gone through.
Original trilogy shots and on set and
yeah. I don't know if we'll get a trailer or not. I could see them putting like some footage in there, and the Eagle Eye fans are going to be like, "That's new." That's the average person watching this might not recognize it, but like us, we're going to pick out, we're going to be like, we've never seen that scene. That's got to be from the show. And then we're going to be frantically writing a Star Wars Newsnet article or something.
I'm not good at pointing stuff out in trailers, like the minor stuff.
Well, you wouldn't notice like if they showed a scene with Boba Fett that we haven't seen in The Mandalorian?
No.
And you'd be like, I've never seen. What if they showed...
I guess it means how. What I'm saying is how deliberate it is. Whether it's like the focal point of like, here's this, or if it's like, oh, did you see that thing in the background? I think that was a Y-wing. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, no, I got that. Yeah, I'm saying like if they were just showing like a bunch of different scenes, they might take a couple things that are eventually going to be in a trailer or something like that, and put that scene in there like a line. And people will be like, that's new footage. That's not something we've seen before. But
they're going to show Robert Rodriguez.
And they're not going to put a big, now here's a sneak peek at the upcoming show.
Well, one of the clips was him sitting in, I believe, probably the slave ship, or I don't think he ever flew the Razor Crest, but he's in the driver's cockpit and he's flipping switches.
It's the Slave One.
Got the blue. Yeah, and it's got the blue screen behind it, but it's clearly from The Mandalorian.
Yeah. But I'm saying if they showed like a different scene from Book of Boba Fett, would we recognize it or not? And I think we probably would.
I don't think
yeah.
I don't think you're gonna see that in this thing before a trailer comes out. They're not gonna show you anything from the Book of Boba Fett until
I think they are.
No. Nope.
They could easily throw a couple behind the scene clips.
Nah.
Want to make a bet?
Nope. I just feel bad. I keep winning these bets. It's just like,
oh my god!
I got a whole fridge of pies back there. They're stacking up.
I do think you're right that there's a good chance that if they're going to show footage that has to do like not with what he's done in The Mandalorian, but what he is going to be doing, they'll probably show the footage that we already have from the end of The Mandalorian. Which like, and when we got Book of Boba Fett coming up, and it shows him, and he's like,
him greasing
gun,
Bib
and he shoots the guy, yeah, and he's sitting on the throne, and it's like that's footage to get you. It's like King of the Castle.
That's boring.
This shirt is not black.
Very nice.
No, I that's always possible. I'm curious if they would throw in like one or two scenes, sometimes. Actually, here's a good example. We watched that Apple keynote, and they were like, you can play great games on Apple Arcade like Star Wars Hunters, and everybody's like, what? That's the first footage we get? They're treating it like it's nothing. They're like, oh yeah, this game coming out, and like any normal person is like, oh, that looks cool. But like Star Wars fans are like, we've never seen that footage. That's the first time they're showing it.
Right.
So I could see a couple scenes of them doing something like that, and only people like us are going to be like, that's not something we've seen before. That's new footage. But anyway, we got other stories to talk about. That is the Under the Helmet Legacy of Boba Fett. That's coming soon, guys. Right around the corner. It's going to be here faster than you know, and then we're going to get the show, so it's even better. Another thing that has to do with Mandalorians is Sasha Banks confirming that she is not returning for Mandalorian Season 3. Now, John knows a lot about this because we did the Star Wars Newsnet article where we pointed out that she told us she's only in Season 2. You know, she's only going to show up in this episode. But her word was a little shaky when she said she's only in that episode, and then she shows up again later in the season. So
Very
when
sneaky.
she says she's not coming back for Season 3, it's kind of news because people say, but she could be lying about it. But she is doubling down now. She's confirming I'm not in Season 3. And I'm going to start with Lacey on this one. What are your thoughts about Sasha Banks saying she's done? It was a cool experience, but she's out.
It's a little surprising to me because obviously Bo-Katan is playing a big role in The Mandalorian moving forward. Like, we left off at such a weird point with her where we're like, is she gonna kill the Mandalorian or not for this Darksaber?
Yeah.
Like, where is she gonna go from here? And I know John's been a big advocate for, like, she's gonna go crazy, like Mad Queen style, and just lose her mind in the process of getting this thing back. So her, like, second hand person, her right hand person is this character. So it doesn't, to me, it's a little confusing only because I'm like, okay, but if Bo-Katan's there and Casca Reeves isn't, what happened to Casca Reeves? But at the same time, that third character disappeared. I forget what his name was. I know it's played by Simon something, but
It was Bill.
the third guy that, what?
It was like Bill or Roger or something like that.
Bill. Stop. It was the third Mandalorian that showed up originally with Bo-Katan in the Bryce Dallas Howard episode, but he kind of just like faded away. So I guess they can just do that. I know that this article did make a mention of a COVID thing where she wasn't really for stuff, and that might play into that. I don't really know all the details on that, so I can't really make a judgment call there, but it is weird because she was like in that whole like moment at the end of the series or the season where she's like taking down bad guys, and you're like, why wouldn't she continue on with Bo-Katan unless they write her out and just be like, hey, Bo-Katan sent her over here, and she disappears. But again, it's tricky because she did say the same thing last time, saying, oh, I'm only in one episode, and then surprise, there she was. But I actually believe her this time. I don't know why she would lie about that.
Axe
Comment on
Woves
her
was the guy.
Yeah. To comment on her
Played by Simon who?
Played by
Peg.
Did you pull it up, John?
No, he's got like a Greek last name, I believe. Very long last name. Starts with a K, I think. Anyway, go ahead, James.
I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, she said that she was only in the one episode, and I could totally understand that to be a misunderstanding. She may have come to set, filmed her scenes, and didn't know that the scene she was filming was also going to be in another episode as well.
Different directors. I found that hard to believe.
I guess so.
Bryce Dallas Howard and Peyton Reed.
But I'm just trying to think of like when you're flying in somebody or they're going to be on set or something, you're trying to be as efficient as possible, and you're probably just going to have them shoot their scenes for a segment instead of being like, well, we wrapped that one up, and then like everything switches, the new director.
I bet they just told everybody for that Luke episode to just shut their mouths. Like, nobody says anything.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
I mean, I see what you mean, James. I'm not trying to rain on your theories or your speculation on that.
I guess I'm just saying, I mean, I would still think it possible that there's two directors there at the same time. They could like film, these scenes with this director for this episode early in the day, and then the next day they do this.
The only problem against that, James, is that last episode in the gallery episode, they said that they did like a 14-hour day straight because of Luke and all this other stuff. Like, it was a tough, they had to get it in one day. And they shot it the same day that they were shooting the Boba Fett episode out in the in California, and I think she was there for that one, wasn't she? Or no, she wasn't there. Never mind. I'm thinking of Fennec Shand.
Yeah, she was on the right.
I mean, I don't even really remember her in the last episode. Like, so I don't know how big of a role she even really had.
I don't know that she had any lines.
That's what I'm saying.
She had a sassy moment in the ship, I think.
Yeah, I guess I'm just picturing like, you know, they need to do this. It wouldn't even have to be like, you know, the big director who shot that scene or something. It could have just been the B unit or somebody else just to do this one shot with this actress who's only going to be here for today for her other episode, but technically in the story she's here too. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
John, did you add to this? Have we got to you actually? Or did I jump in? You have thoughts on this?
I peppered in a little bit, but I didn't get my full take. But I believe it too. I personally didn't think she was very good. And I know people are probably going to be mad about that, but whatever.
I'm surprised you haven't done the stare at least once in this whole conversation.
Oh, I did it Thursday. So I didn't want to do it, you know. But it's I mean, I got the blanket right down there. We can make that happen. But it's funny because anyone who said Gina Carano was a bad actor before she got controversial, people are like, how dare you? She's amazing. And then she gets in trouble and she falls out of favor and people are like, yeah, she kind of stunk. So it's just like...
I thought she was actually better in season 1 than season 2, Gina Carano. I thought she was more wooden in season 2.
Really? Yeah, I thought she was kind of the same, but I see what you mean. She had more personal moments. But
yeah, I agree.
Her scene with Carson Teva was really good, though. Let's not forget that.
Paul acted her under the table, though.
Well, he's a professional actor, award-winning actor. She's a MMA fighter turned actor. I mean, you gotta come on.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, that scene, like, he clearly shines there.
I would hope so for him, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
In terms of her, you know, I didn't think Sasha Banks was very good. I thought she was kind of stiff, and maybe they were like, this didn't work out. You know, we did some favors and brought her in. So I don't know. I'm not trying to, you know, talk poorly about her. She's obviously very successful in what she's doing with WWE, and I'm sure she'll have a huge career going forward, whatever she's doing. But I didn't think she was very good. I'm surprised that when they do those sorts of things where they bring in someone who hasn't really acted before, instead of like there's people trying to get roles anywhere. So bring in a professional actor. Come on. I know Star Wars isn't, you know, winning Academy Awards and stuff, but let's go. And the other,
it's hard to have a cast with like Giancarlo Esposito in it and then have her be in it, and you're like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
also, John, they kind of are when you think about. You said Academy Awards, but they're winning Emmys. Big time.
No, you're right. Well, they're not winning them; they're getting nominated, right?
But they're in the conversation.
Yeah, you're right. It's to an extent. You're right, but I think what I mean is it's not considered. It's you know what I'm saying. It's Star Wars.
It's not Adam Driver Marriage Story. Is what he's saying.
It's actor, not actor.
Yeah, right.
Acting.
Yeah. So
Patrick Stewart, like, I was acting. I wasn't really asleep.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is, I think maybe from a story perspective, just thinking about Bo-Katan and where we left off, the Darksaber, it would make more sense if she didn't have an entourage. Because she is going to kind of be a woman on a mission here, on her own personal destiny journey, and it doesn't make sense if they're with her, especially if she has to.
I didn't see him as number 1 and number 2. I saw them as throwaway Mandalorians that happen to be with her day of.
Only because she tells her to calm down when she's fighting with Boba Fett.
Well, they were
like,
together. They were together at 2 different times too, and it was them 2 again. You know, so I
mean, I guess so. I'm just thinking of it like handmaidens or something to the queen.
Yeah,
like, and they're important, but at the same time, like,
sure,
there's so many of them. They could be swapping out, and they're all very loyal to her. But it's not like
there's no path for her to be in this story if she's not still attached to Bo-Katan. You're not gonna be like, let's want to see what Casca Reeves is up to now. You know.
Yeah.
So I think that this is, to me, and this is speculation, of course, without other information for me to tie it into, Bo-Katan is going to have her own sort of arc and journey here in season 3. And she's going to shed the entourage. and that sort of thing. And it's her quest for the Darksaber and stuff like that. Now, it's possible these two show up and all the Night Watch or Children of the Watch show up, and the Armorer shows up, and all those people from season 1 come back, and it's a big Mando fest, and they go to Mandalore or something. Who knows? But I believe her when she's saying this stuff. I don't see why someone with her resume is going to be like, watch me pull the wool over their eyes on this one. Her agent's probably like, no, if you want to keep acting, you got to tell people you're in this thing because we want buzz for you. We want you to get other roles. Her someone
she's
like
not Liam Neeson.
Right,
like,
Harrison
like,
Ford being like, nah, I'm not in that. I'm not in episode 9. You get that.
Oh, Liam Neeson.
And everybody's like, yes, you are.
Oh, well, his was
have
funny
to be.
because he said he was never approached was the dumbest thing he could have said. You know, we've talked
and then
about
he got
that.
super awkward that he was like, oh, really? Like trying to poke him a little more. And he was just like,
look at my
I don't know what to
lightsaber.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
It's my lightsaber from episode 1. But I believe what she's saying. And for all those points. So, we'll see.
I do too. Actually, I think she's just being honest. And I would say the same thing. Like, hey, I'm glad that I got to be a part of it. It was crazy. It took off. Like, what a cool experience. And I'd love to do more stuff like that. You know, I think that's really what she was summarizing.
Mm-hmm.
We got one other story that we wanted to talk about here, and that is that Thrawn Ascendancy, Lesser Evil, which is the 3rd book in the 2nd trilogy of new Thrawn trilogies.
Are they doing another trilogy after this, or is this it?
I don't think anything's been announced.
I don't think so either.
Nothing popped out
so
to
much
me.
Thrawn.
But no, we got an excerpt here on StarWars.com that has to do with him meeting another of his kind, you know, so it's kind of one of those deals. Either one of you, did this pop out? Did you guys get a chance?
You start, James.
I mean, for me, it's one of those things like this book's right around the corner, so it kind of excites me because, you know, I know this is going to come. And I have very much enjoyed the first 2 of this trilogy, getting to learn this character a lot more. That being said, I put on the audio, you know, version that they put up, and I was like, man, this is a lot of the same. Like, this is exactly like how the other 2 books read, and this is his character, and they didn't really show us anything too crazy in this excerpt because we knew, I mean, even people, I wasn't like a big Thrawn fan, but one of the things I knew about him coming out of Legends was that he used art and stuff to figure things out about people. So it's like this particular excerpt is like Thrawn 101. We know this, you know? So I didn't find it particularly interesting or intriguing to learn more about his character. I'm like, yep, that's Thrawn. That was it, you know? And everybody around him is really astonished by how could he be that smart? He couldn't possibly, you know? And it's like, yeah, I mean, you've already shown us this through multiple books that this is the character. So I thought it was an odd choice for an excerpt. Hopefully, maybe the goal here is to introduce us to the other character to get his personality, because I think he's illustrated for the book cover as well. So maybe he's a main player in the book and this is his first introduction. So maybe the goal there was not to introduce Thrawn, but to show the character being introduced to Thrawn, maybe the same way that we learned about him or knew about him in the first place. But not much to be said about this other than I'm excited to wrap up the trilogy. John, do you got anything on the Lesser Evil excerpt?
Well, I mean, there's no chance I'm gonna read this, but it's just like I'm glad it's coming out, you know, for the holidays, right around Christmas. I'm very excited about that for people.
Oh my gosh, is that what you were thinking about the whole time James was talking? Is how can I work this?
I was actually upset that I didn't drop my Casca Reeves joke. Very upset that I forgot that. But
which was that? What?
Well,
don't make him say it.
By the sounds of everything, it sounds like she's going to be Casca Leaves. Oh my God. I crushed 2 in a row. Amazing. All right. So
Crushed.
yeah. So
Did you
yeah,
know?
Thrawn. I mean, look, Timothy Zahn is doing all right for himself. This guy has convinced them to keep making these trilogies and these books about Thrawn and stuff. And at this point, the man probably has more houses than Oscar Isaac. But in terms of this character, I wasn't big on Thrawn. I am curious to see. He was fine in Rebels. I didn't even like that was okay. I'm curious to see what they do with him in live action, as we're all believing, based on what the interaction between Ahsoka at the end of her episode. She's going to be looking for Thrawn, so we're going to see live action Thrawn. I'm curious what they do with that. But in terms of like this, like reading this excerpt, it to me doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels like Star Trek or heavy sci-fi, and I'm not a big sci-fi fan as much as I love Star Wars. This is just very sci-fi type of writing to me, and all of the different names and the different planets and places. It's very polysyllabic and hard to just what is what. Like I don't know how people keep track of that if they do. But
I've mentioned before, like what they've built is this other world over here. It's not quite Star Wars. It's in the unknown regions, and it's their own territories, their own civilization.
I'm glad it's there,
and it's like it's kind of cool in a sense because you can kind of leave Star Wars and stop worrying about Death Stars and Empire and stuff, and just kind of like stick here with these characters in this world and see what's going on in that drama, while still technically being in Star Wars. You know,
yeah,
but
it's sometimes you go to a buffet and there's people who love grabbing all the chicken fingers or something, and you want to go.
Do you go to buffets?
No, I haven't been to in a while.
That's what I was gonna say.
But other people like, you know, the mac and cheese or something, and it's just that's what this kind of thing is. Like I dig that there's a lot of people who love this, and they clearly do because they keep making them. It's just not really for me. I've tried, and I just like I have a hard time focusing. I don't know if I have some undiagnosed problem or something, but like this is the type of thing where I'll read it and then I was thinking about something else, and then I have to go back and read it again. It's a tough thing to absorb for me, even on the audiobook level, as good as, you know, like a Mark Thompson is. I don't know. It's whatever. I'm glad they're making Thrawns. I'm glad that Timothy Zahn is well employed and well paid, I guess. But and I'm happy for Thrawn fans because I was at New York Comic Con when they first announced the return of Thrawn via books, and people went nuts. And I think that's really cool that there's a pocket of fans who love him. So, and there's stuff I love that people don't like too. So we get how that works, and I think that's all good. It's just I'm probably not going to be the one to go to for takes on that, you know.
So you would say for you, Thrawn is a swing and a myth?
Swing and a myth, a little bit of more of a yawn.
You both make a face. You both make a face when you think of something, and you just sit there with this face of smugness. Of I've got it. I'm wait. Yeah, a little smug. Yeah.
Smugness?
Getting ready to put the other one down, sort of thing.
Yeah. No, not even put it down. Just smug of like, yeah, that's right. I have a good joke.
Well,
and you both sit there.
Well, I mean it more like got him kind of thing. Like I got you.
Who gets ready to tell a joke, being like, this is going to be terrible?
You should think that.
Oh, really? Because last I checked, I'm the dad joke king.
Speaking of what people think, Lacey, do you have any thoughts on the excerpt and Thrawn in general in this book? What?
Well, now I feel bad after that whole little joke bit. I have nothing to add to the story because I'm in the same boat as John of I've never really gotten into this. I'm really pumped, as always, for people to get with their, you know, this goes for the High Republic too. Like every time I see something get announced for the High Republic and people go crazy and they get so excited, I'm pumped for them. And I hope that when they see me get excited about stuff that maybe they're not the craziest about, they feel the same way. It's like, if you win, we all kind of win because we're all getting pieces of the Star Wars galaxy that we really enjoy. I'm interested to see what they do with him in live action. I know, James, you're probably the person I talk to most that's the most excited for Thrawn to show up. So I'm partially excited to see what they do with Thrawn, but then I would say majority excited to see what your reaction is to him showing up.
I have a question for you guys. This is unprecedented. Lucasfilm's not going to do this, but say they took this trilogy and they said, we really like the stories. We just know nobody read it, right? So what we want to do is we want to recreate this story in a different medium.
You had said you wanted a series, right?
Well, no, what I'm proposing is, what do you think it would take for you guys to watch it? Would they have to be YouTube shorts, or maybe in a cool animation, or would they have to be an animated series? Would you get into it at that point? Or would they have to go Disney Plus TV series, or would they have to go full movie? What would get you interested in this story? At what level?
I wouldn't want to see anything with this guy as the main central character.
Anything?
Nope.
They told you the new trilogy was actually Thrawn based.
Oh,
you wouldn't go see those movies?
No.
I would be a little disappointed, only because we've said this before. Here's why, James, because every time they announce something like that, it means something else is not happening. So when I see, Thrawn's
I know,
happening,
but you guys are saying you're not going to see it.
Oh, I would watch it. I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it. I'm just saying I wouldn't be pumped about it.
Yes, so that's the level that would get you
probably
in.
live action.
You would go watch
either TV or movie. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited
TV
to
live
see,
action.
like I said, I'm excited to see him in
okay.
live action, but he's going to be a supporting character, and I think that's fine.
No. I get that. I was just trying to see we have the story going on over here, and maybe it doesn't feel very Star Warsy, but what's the level that it would take for you guys to be all right, I'm in. I'm going to take part in the medium.
It would be way easier to absorb it in a visual format than reading it. That's for sure for me.
Yeah. Or a video game, for instance, if they wanted to retell it in a video game, maybe. No. I don't know. Anyway, it's something to think. Yeah, I'm just saying it's something to think about.
We could talk about this
with some of
blue
these
in the
smaller
face,
stories.
But,
Yeah. Oh my God.
The Thrawn books honestly make me feel a little dumb. I'm not gonna lie. I read them and I'm just I don't understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're difficult. I've had a couple other experiences with other Star Wars books.
Why are you laughing, John? What did you just think of?
Because you missed the blue in the face. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face.
Oh. I thought you were making fun of me calling myself dumb. I'm I'm allowed to call myself dumb.
No.
You can't laugh at me calling me.
No.
But always fun experiments to think about, some of the comic books or something. What would it take? What level would it take before I could be invested? I thought that was a interesting take on these types of stories that maybe we don't get into as much. But that is it for the Resistance Report this week. It was not a lot of news this week, but we managed to have some good discussion, I think, about what was available there. So we do have a couple other sections in the show, and I'm going to let Lacey take us on to the next one.
All right, guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us. You can follow us here on YouTube if you're watching this video. Hello. Subscribe, like the video, comment, ring the bell for notifications. You can follow us on any of the audio platforms that we're on. We really like Spotify as well, that you can just follow us there. That would be great. On Twitter at RBATSWNN, or on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast. If you want more than that, including extra weekly videos, polls, mailings, etc., you can head over to patreon.com/resistancebroadcast. Starting at $2 a month, you get to support the show and what we're doing here and what we plan to do in the future with all the craziness that's going to happen. I mean, we know that they have 11 series in the works, so it's going to get a little crazy, but more than anything, you just support what we're doing and our dream of talking about Star Wars and making really cool content for you. So this is the part of the show that we let our generals and spice runners take part. We ask them a question, they give us an answer. But before we do that, I'm going to thank those people. So there's quite a few, so I'm going to try to breathe through this. So thank you to our generals: CARMELO, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, John RISI, JETTA Rosewater, Paul Olson, Jake Houchins, Oliver Lewis, Frank Grande, Haas, Joe Ritchie, Darth Hurricane, John Chorlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Joey Mayfield Stewart, Nathan Shank, and Val TRICHKOV. Thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
And to our Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Double C Chris, Kendall Gelnar, who we just did our Spice Run with on Patreon, which was super fun.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Go check it out.
Yeah, who claims he can eat 20 Taco Bell tacos in one sitting.
Bold claim.
Bold claim.
He also said he ate 10 hamburgers.
Yeah, he did.
I'm impressed. Ryan WAARA, Dave HORNAK, Micah Harrison, and Thomas Hennessey. Thank you guys so much. And speaking of Thomas Hennessey, I am so excited. He's getting his first try at the Patreon pod race. I was so excited because there's been a couple of weeks where he's been working like crazy, which I'm so happy that he gets to finally take part. So his question was, what character or characters that has not already been revealed to appear in Andor would you be happy to see make an appearance in the series? So Thomas, take it away.
Andor is one of my most anticipated live-action Star Wars series getting ready to come out. I absolutely love Rogue One. I absolutely love Diego Luna playing Cassian Andor, and I thought that he was one of the more fascinating and interesting parts of that movie, and I wanted to see more. And so they've delivered. We're going to get it next year. And some of the characters we might see that haven't been talked about yet. What about somebody from Solo? Andor, being a spy, has to hang out in less than reputable places. He could run into smugglers like Han, gamblers like Lando, or gangsters like Kira. It's certainly possible. And then on the other side of things, it might be interesting to run into somebody like Agent Callus, Rebel Intelligence versus ISB. It seems like a good fit there. So, we'll see what happens. But I'm super excited for it. And thanks for having me on. And thank you so much for all the amazing, great Star Wars content you guys put out. I love you guys. Thanks.
Well done, Thomas. First of all, you have a very charming voice. Very charming. Loved it. John, what'd you think?
Do I have a charming voice?
I don't know. Thomas had a very nice voice.
Even if you did like twice a week, like multiple times, is too much at some point.
Thomas, first of all, production quality through the roof. I felt like I was watching a documentary.
Depth of field.
Yeah. Wow. Great job there. Do you do that type of thing for a living or something? But anyway, I liked your answer. Don't do this to me though with the Han and Chewie stuff, man. Like, come on, don't, because then I'm gonna be like, oh wait, maybe they will. But so I don't know about that. But I did like some of your other picks. Callus, that's interesting. I never really thought about that. That could be cool. The whole spy element of it. I thought you were gonna say like maybe Enfys Nest when you said people from Solo, but you said like Lando and Kira, and with the rising of Kira and what's going on with Crimson Dawn, that is interesting. So I don't know. You definitely threw me some curveballs, but I'm happy to hear how much you love Diego Luna's Cassian Andor, because I feel like everything that's been going around with the hype for Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, and stuff. Andor's laying in the weeds a little bit, and we've talked about that a bit on the podcast. I know James has brought that up a couple times, so I like that you're so jacked up for this series, and you being excited for it amped up my excitement a little bit more. So thank you for that, and most importantly, thank you for all your support, man. You're the man. Great job. Look forward to the next one, and of course, seeing the chats and all that stuff. Appreciate it.
James?
Yeah, no, 100%. I love the answer of Callus, Agent Callus showing up. That to me, opened me up. I'd never thought of that. I never thought of it as a possibility.
I watched James watch your pod race, and he lit up when you said that.
Yeah, I was like, that's crazy if they went that route, because, at that era too, it would be kind of a flashback into the Callus that Rebels started with when he was, bad, basically. I really am kind of hoping that even happens now. But that's the thing with like Cassian, for instance, the same as Ahsoka, like when you're getting those Rebels characters, or we're getting those kind of, as we just discussed a minute ago, like lower tier characters being brought up to live action, that stuff is really exciting for the people who were there the whole time. So to see a live action version of when we saw Ahsoka, that was great. Now to when we see a live action Agent Callus in the Cassian show, which is a character that we already love, like, oh man, just so pumped up for that. Very excited. So yeah, great pod race. Again, with the production value, it was good. I love that. And it was awesome, man. So glad you're a Spice Runner. That's awesome.
Thomas, I'm so happy that we finally got to sync up to do this. I was so pumped that you were able to do it this week. Again, your voice is amazing. That being said, I'm super pumped about the Solo stuff. I would love to see it. And it's funny, John brought up Enfys Nest, because again, yeah, that's the first thing I think a lot of us thought is when they announced casting, we were like, oh, we could see Enfys Nest again. But you've brought up a lot of people that I think, why not? Why couldn't they show up? That'd be really, really cool. But yeah, thanks for supporting us. It means a lot to us. And you're welcome to come back anytime with your high quality video footage. And now we're going to go to John.
All right. I know we have maybe a couple of minutes, but just, I want to get your guys' thoughts on because we, Book of Boba Fett's coming soon, and they're constantly hammering that idea that it's the season 2.5 thing for the Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. So I'm just very curious how much further down the line we're going to reconnect with Din Djarin in terms of time. Like, because they're clearly not going to pick up right after the end of season 2. Is it going to be, like real life they do sometimes where it's like, oh, we took 2 years to bring it back, then it's going to be 2 years in the show? Or could they, they could push it even further if they wanted to. If they wanted to do some more First Order tie-in stuff that they seem to be flirting with, which is a lot of these, the clone questions about, what are they doing, and all the assumptions that it has to do with, Palpatine's plans and stuff like that. So I'm just curious what you guys think. The Mandalorian is filming now, which is cool. Season 3 coming next year. Do you guys think it's going to be a huge leap in time?
I'm going to let James go first on this one.
I think a year.
Yeah.
I think they'll go the 1 year route.
Do you think they'll establish that, or through story let us know via certain elements? Do you think they'll say like 1 year later, like they did in Solo 3 years later?
I like day one, like when we start up the episode, it'll be like 1 year later. Now, I think they're gonna market it, and they're gonna say, we're picking up with these characters, a year after the events of seeing Luke Skywalker, and Grogu being gone. And I think what they'll probably do is they'll try to reintroduce this in the first couple episodes to what the character has been doing in the meantime, what he is either returned to, like bounty hunting, or what he knows, or what he has set his future to be is, now that I'm not trying to save Grogu, but I've turned into a different person, so I need a new life, career, or whatever, and they'll introduce us to that. But through those events, new things will happen. He'll be called to a new adventure or whatever. But I think they're going to establish that some time has passed. Yes, I don't think it's pick up like season 3, episode 1, and they're like, back on the ship, now what?
Yeah, right,
kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked, I feel like a couple weeks ago, about Kenobi and how they would end that series. And John, I know you had said they were going to flash forward to kind of give that Alec Guinness type thing. I think this series, Book of Boba Fett, could have that at the end of this to then tie into that. Like, and it could be as simple as they flash forward to, Boba Fett traveling, and then he walks into a certain cantina and there's Din Djarin. And it kind of sets up that where he is, how long it's been, without having to go through a whole like previously on The Mandalorian.
Oh, wow.
I think that's an easy way to do it.
Do you think how much would fans flip out, like Boba Fett fans flip out, if the end of the Book of Boba Fett ends with the Mandalorian killing Boba Fett?
Oh my God. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think that
think
Jon Favreau loves the character too much,
Yeah, yeah, I don't think they will either, but it's just like Boba Fett always gets punked out. So
he falls back into another Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
They're like, the first time it didn't get him, but the second time.
Round 2. The only thing that I think throws a little bit of a wrench into my theory is the fact that he did end up with the Darksaber. I don't know how you just like sheed that thing up and go into bartending for a year.
Unless he buries it somewhere or something, like for that reason.
Throws it over his shoulder, Luke Skywalker style, buries it like Rey.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, there is some sort of precedent for that in Rebels when, Kanan's asking about the Darksaber. Sabine must be very happy to see that. Yeah, you wouldn't know it if you asked her. She hasn't mentioned it since she gave it to me.
Yeah.
She almost doesn't want anything to do with it. So I very much could see, not very much, but I think it's possible that they could go the route of him putting the thing away and it just sitting as like this relic until he decides it's time for him to pick it up.
Right. Yeah. I could see him, because he clearly didn't want it. And he got it by just a matter of circumstance. So I could see him totally burying that thing away somewhere, and who knows? I don't know how.
It's in his closet somewhere.
Yeah.
Security deposit box.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, I mean, that's all I got. I was just kind of curious about where you guys stood with that. And, we're gonna find out soon enough where Book of Boba Fett takes us. But we know for sure that it is sort of a stopgap in between. But holds its own merit as well, of course. But that takes us to the end of the show. So we want to thank everybody for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. Like Lacey said, make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you prefer, because our podcast is twice a week and it's free. So just pick your platform and go for it. Make sure you're also going to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. All the stories we cover, we always grab from our site. So you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, writing and editing at Star Wars Newsnet, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We just put out an episode on the old Aladdin from 1992. And next time we're doing Happy Gilmore. So it should be a fun one. James, welcome back again. Where can people tell you how much they missed you?
Yeah, you can do that on Twitter and Instagram at Myro Trunks if you want to hit me up there. Used Instagram more than I regularly do recently, posting a bunch of pictures of Bennett with Mickey and other such things like that. It's a lot of fun.
And don't press the button.
And do not press that button.
That's like your new event. We're going to have to talk about this a little more.
The event.
Lacey.
Guys, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran, and we didn't talk about it here because it just all the details are somewhere else. So HasCon, Hasbro PulseCon happened Friday, Saturday. Talked about it via StarWarsNewsNet.com. So if you want the full rundown of what happened and what's to come, head over there. Yeah, it was cool. It was a fun event.
Yeah. Toys. Gotta love them.
Yeah, toys.
Thursday, we're getting closer to Halloween, so we're gonna get a little spooky here on the Resistance broadcast, and you'll see what we mean, especially if you're watching on video on Thursday. But
spooky vibes.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna intertwine Halloween a little bit into our Star Wars discussions. But until then, enjoy your weeks, and we'll see you next time right here on TRB. See you around, kids.